All right, it says we are live. So, welcome everyone to our next QC Rock Academy live Q&A. This is our 11th episode, and it's a little bit of a rainy day here in the Quad Cities, but hopefully you're stuck inside and you can join us on this live stream and we'll chat in some questions with today's guest. She's been very cool to us. We've hung out with her a couple times over the years with our students. So she's down at her home near Nashville. Annie Clements. She is currently the bass player with Maren Morris. So most of you probably know her music. And also a longtime bass player with Sugarland and a bunch of other projects. So welcome to the show, Annie.
Hi, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Hello, Q Rock Academy.
Yeah, people are joining in.
Awesome.
Oh, your biggest fan just joined and already commented.
Who?
Izzy.
Hello, Izzy. How are you?
She's been waiting for this moment forever.
Good to see you again.
So it was 2 years ago. So it was June of 2018 that Sugarland was playing in town and Thad was going to come here and hang out with the students. And you just happened to be on the road with them because you had a weekend off.
That's right. I crashed the Q Rock Academy.
Yeah. So Izzy, who's a bass player, as you can see in her little profile pic there, you made a huge impression on that girl. I'm going to tell you that much right now. And she, even with your strap with the lightning bolts, she got a black one with the white lightning bolt and a white one with the black lightning bolt.
Wow.
For her different.
Love that. I still have it somewhere. It's around here. A little more challenging for me to wear a bass and stand up these days. I am 8 months pregnant, so I'm mostly sitting down to play. I'm wearing it like a lap steel. But
yeah. But I forget you had one of your one of the pink Fenders that you had brought here.
Yeah.
And she's like, she let me play her bass. It was
amazing. Those are really, really special basses for me. Fender custom made me a couple of American Elites. They made me a Precision and a Jazz in that shell pink, which was inspired by Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick. Jennifer Nettles from Sugarland, we did a Crossroads with Cheap Trick. And Tom had that bass, and I just was dying over it. He had like a vintage Fender in shell pink, and so I begged Fender to make me one in shell pink too, and they obliged me.
So actually, that's where I first recognized you. Was you guys were actually getting ready to come to town with Jennifer, and I had to look this one up because it was in April of 2016.
Oh wow!
And you guys were playing downtown Davenport. And I, like 2 weeks before that, I saw the Cheap Trick Crossroads with you guys. And because I'm actually good friends with Dax.
That's right. He's so awesome.
So I was like, man, who is that bass player? She's awesome. I need to reach out to her.
Yeah.
So then you came and did a small thing at a place called the River Music Experience downtown, and let some of the kids get up and play with you, and that was very, very, very cool, I thought.
Oh yeah, I remember some of the guys from Jennifer's band came with us, and we all rocked out.
Yes, Scott was there and whatnot. So and then you came back 2 years later and hung out at the school, and the kids loved it, and then we hung out at the Sugarland show that night. So the kids just loved you. So.
Kids are all right.
So I guess let's start at the beginning with you.
Okay.
Just to get things going. Tell us about your musical beginnings.
Okay. Well, my dad is a guitar player, and I'm from New Orleans. And so he was on tour a lot when I was a kid. And I just learned the business from him, and he taught me to play, and he basically needed a bass player for his own projects. So he made me from scratch. And here I am. And yeah, so he got me, I took piano for a long time, which was really great for training my ear and, giving me an overview of how music works. And then for my 13th birthday, he got me a bass, and it just really clicked with me. And ever since then, that's been what I've wanted to do. So I would go play gigs with him. We would, he'd sneak me in the clubs in the French Quarter and all over town to sit in. And then, high school jazz band and all that type of stuff. And then I ended up going to Berklee College of Music, which was a wonderful experience for me. And then when I graduated, I moved back home to New Orleans and started gigging around town. And one thing led to another, and I ended up getting asked to audition for Sugarland, and I got the gig.
Nice.
I moved to Nashville, and I've been here ever since.
What year was that?
That was 2000. I think I auditioned either in 2005 or 2006, but by February of 2006, I was in Nashville. So it was right after Hurricane Katrina. Okay. And I didn't know, kind of what direction things were going to go. And I had, I'd had to move out of my apartment in Mid-City, New Orleans, and move in with my mom. And we were all living in this tiny apartment together because everyone's houses were flooded. So everyone was kind of fixing up their places. And I was living in this little apartment with my mom, my aunt, her boyfriend, my brother, my boyfriend at the time, and the guy who fixes computers at my mom's law firm. Living together.
Why not?
It was crazy. It was like the Real World TV show. You kids probably don't remember that, but it's a pretty
I do. Yeah.
On MTV. Yeah, it was like the Real World, Hurricane Katrina. But we were living in that apartment, and I got a call from Christian Bush. I'd been recommended by David Labriere, who played bass for many years for John Mayer, and happened to be a good friend of mine. He put my name in the hat. And I just had a really good conversation with Christian, and we hit it off. And so I drove to Best Buy and bought the CD, their first album, and learned the 3 songs he'd asked me to learn in the kitchen of that little apartment. And I drove myself to Nashville, and I went to several callbacks, and they paired me with different drummers and a couple of different guitar players, rhythm guitar players, one of which ended up being my husband, Thad. So we were at the same audition, and we both ended up on the gig. And it took many years later until we decided to, try to slowly and carefully and cautiously combine forces. But yeah, here we are. So, nice. Yeah.
So since you guys were here a couple years ago, Thad has grown a ridiculously beautiful beard.
I know. I should get him in here to show off his beard. It is magnificent. Yeah, that's literally like, I'll find these strands of it just kind of around the house. And for all you kids who are Harry Potter fans out there, I'm like, this is like the hair of a unicorn in a unicorn core wand. Like, anyway, it tickles my Harry Potter nerd fancy. So yeah, he's got a very Dumbledore-ish beard going on right now.
That is lovely. What spawned that?
I don't even know how it started, but once it started, it couldn't be stopped. And took me a while to warm up to it, but now it's like, it's his edge, man. Like, yeah. It's a part of him.
Is he going to keep it after the baby?
Well, that depends on the baby's tugging capabilities. I think the goal is have the baby get some like really god awful shots of him with the beard, no shirt, baby on his chest.
Yeah.
Just to have to embarrass the child when she's older. And then after we've gotten that, he might shave it. So
that makes good sense.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, so what would 13-year-old Annie be listening to?
Oh my gosh. When I was 13, I was listening to Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, just like I liked the grunge stuff that was happening. But I also always listened to the Beatles my whole life, no matter what season of life I was in.
Yeah.
Also at that time, I got connected with a group of musicians in New Orleans, a guy named Peter Holsapple and his wife, Susan Cowsill, and they had a band. And when I was 14, I got to go on tour with them. Their band was opening for Hootie and the Blowfish, like at the height of Hootydom.
Oh, nice.
And I got to go out and be the nanny on the road and take care of their kid. And so their music really influenced me a ton, Peter and Susan's stuff, which was kind of power pop type of, as singer-songwritery type of stuff. So I had been like pretty steeped, and I've gone through phases where I'd be more into like funk stuff, like super Motown stuff. I love Marvin Gaye, I love Stevie Wonder. And then their stuff got me just more into singer-songwritery type of stuff. I ended up finding my way to Amy Mann, who I adore, and yeah, so lots of different type of stuff.
So what was she from, the Cowsill girl? Was she from the family?
Right. Yeah, she was the little girl in the Cowsill. So they were, for those of you who don't remember, that they were a popular band in the 60s, late 60s, probably early 70s maybe. And they were a family band, which actually the television show The Partridge Family was based on their band. Okay. And Susan was the only daughter of like 7 kids. And so all the brothers and Susan and their mom were, the Cowsills. So I got way into like Cowsills music.
Yeah.
And the guitar player in that band was not in the Cowsills, but in their band, which is called the Continental Drifters, was Vicki Peterson from the Bangles. So then I got way into the Bangles. And that probably was the genesis of my obsession with all-female bands, which I now get to have. So I have a side project called Side Piece, which is a bunch of female sidemen like me. So it's all gals who have toured professionally and, and continue to do so. And we get together and we formed our own band so we can kind of make music on our own timetable and our own terms, which is really fun.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's take our first question. This one's from Lexi. She's a longtime student of ours.
Hello, Lexi.
What's your favorite place you performed? And P.S. You're gorgeous, she says.
Go on. Well, can I walk and talk? Can I take you on a tour of my studio?
Absolutely.
Okay, so these are a lot of basses, but let's see if I can do this backwards. This is my wall of posters of so many of the wonderful places I've gotten to perform. And it's definitely bittersweet to look at all these when I can't leave the house right now. But let's see. We got the Santa Barbara Bowl. That's a beautiful spot. Red Rocks is probably my my favorite place to perform. It's an outdoor amphitheater outside of Denver, Colorado, and it's just, they've carved out the side of this mountain, and it's just unbelievable. You really feel like you are immersed in the landscape, and it's always just a really magical time. And I've been so fortunate that I've gotten to play there many times. I love traveling overseas, playing in Europe. I've played some really cool rooms over there, the Paradiso in Amsterdam. That's a favorite room of mine. But I've gotten to play some really wonderful places, and I've played some really terrifying places too. But It's you make the best of it. I've had some of my best shows musically and emotionally for an audience of 10 people in a a rinky-dink club where I'm wondering if the stage is going to fall through.
Oh yeah.
And there's bugs and like band-aids on the stage and stuff. Talking about a little room in Alabama specifically.
Okay.
But I've done it all. I continue to do it all. But Red Rocks, you always know going to play Red Rocks that it's going to be a really special night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So let's go on to our next question.
Mhm.
Back to your old friend Izzy.
Hi.
What's it like working? What was it like working with Amos Lee?
Yeah, well, my favorite Red Rocks show was with Amos. I've gotten to play Red Rocks with just about every, all of the major artists that I've worked with, but I played a very special show there with Amos, and we recorded a live album. So it's called Live at Red Rocks, and we got to play with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. So
Oh, wow.
it was literally like when I get asked, do you ever think you've like made it? Like, well, I did have this one moment after playing Red Rocks with Amos Lee and the symphony where I had to go look at myself in the mirror and I said to myself, like, well, I hope you really enjoy that because I don't think it's going to get any better. So sorry. Like, it was kind of a bittersweet feeling. But it was wonderful to play with Amos. And I was in his band for about 4 years. So in between Sugarland and Maren, I toured with Amos, and it was so different from what I had become accustomed to with Sugarland, where you're everyone's playing to a click track. You're playing the songs the same way every night because they're being synced up to a video wall behind you. So everything has to, and there's a huge lighting production, and there's all of this stuff happening that you have to stay on a very specific track with what you're doing musically, which is super fun and exciting. And that's like the goal, to get to a place like that for a lot of people. But then with Amos, it all of a sudden went to like, all right, let's get rid of that. And now here comes this guy who at any point will just turn his back to the audience and turn to the band and be like, we're going to go here now, and just start playing something you've never heard before in front of, 3,000 people. And you just have to jump on board and use your ear and look frantically around at everyone else and flash, what's he doing? What's happening? And you just figure it out. So it was definitely a learning experience and, a growing experience for me. And it was really great. I mean, it was definitely, there were times where, situations like that made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And but
you can fall flat on your face very easily right there.
Oh yeah, and there were a few occasions where that did happen, but I think audiences really appreciate seeing someone take a risk. And I mean, just like you watch figure skating on TV, like there's a chance someone could get hurt. So, but that's what makes it exhilarating. And it's a once in a lifetime thing that only this audience was getting to witness and be a part of. And it made it special for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually got to see Amos play. It was like the week before the whole quarantine started.
Oh.
He was
that with Zach Brown?
Yeah, it was the first night of the Zach Brown tour. They were playing here in town. When some of Zach's guys invited a bunch of the students to come to the show and hang out and whatnot.
I love you guys.
So yeah, we got to hang out with and watch Amos play right before it was. I think they got 4 shows into that tour and had to close it down.
Mm-hmm.
So,
man, no, he's the best. He's wonderful. He's doing some great. He's doing some great live streams. If you follow him on Instagram, he'll just kind of pop up on occasion and he'll play some tunes and he'll do anything. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like I was watching one of his streams the other night, and someone was like, play the song from Moana. And he starts playing, like, he loves Disney movies. He loves
Okay.
them. And like he and I would always sing like Beauty and the Beast, the duet, like backstage and stuff, like just for fun. And but he killed it, you know, what's his na 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 na, it finds me, no one knows. Like, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
singing it in like his Amos voice, and just killing it. Like, and you know, he messed up a couple of chords and he laughs about it. And everyone's just like, this is awesome. So
Hey.
you don't know. You just never know what you can get with that guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, next question. This is from Seth. Actually, his daughter Ava is the one that sang with you when you did the thing the first time. So, and actually, Ava is the singer in Izzy's band. So
no kidding.
it's a big connection here.
Well, good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping by.
So, what's your favorite genre
Ooh.
to play?
I mean, that's a toughie because, well, it's interesting. You know, I've gone through phases. Like I said, when I was a kid, you know, I was super into Nirvana and, you know, Stone Temple Pilots and that type of stuff. Then I got way into the Motown stuff, James Jamerson, all of the funk bassline stuff. And that was like what I thought I was going to do. All throughout high school, throughout Berkeley, I was really focused on like fingerstyle R&B, funk type stuff. And coming from a city like New Orleans, you know, there's a lot of that type of stuff going on, just a lot of soul. And I never imagined I would end up in a country band. That was not on my radar at all. But people would mention things to me about it, you know, back then, even in high school. You're like, you know, you sing such great harmony, and you know, your voice is really suited to country. Like, have you ever considered playing country music? Like, nah. And then I got the audition for Sugarland. And so it's funny because my country vocabulary really doesn't start until 2006. And like, I'll have little snippets. Oh, I remember that Shania Twain song. And of course, the Dixie Chicks. The Dixie Chicks snuck in there and made a huge impression on me when they came out with really that, and Mary Chapin Carpenter, that got in there. But I really had I have such a, like, people ask, you know, what about this Garth Brooks song? What about this, blah, blah, blah. Like, man, I don't know anything until Baby Girl 2006. And then I started listening to the radio because I wanted to see like if I could hear Sugarland on the radio. And we started touring with all of these bands. And so you got to become friends. And I had a much deeper appreciation for the songwriting craft that is country music, telling like a full life story of someone that has an impact and a deep meaning. Now this is 2006, cut to today's modern country. We don't necessarily have that depth of storytelling right now. But it would be, I don't know if it's possible for me to even say this is my favorite genre. I think my favorite thing to do is play live music with other people and have as many people singing together as possible. That to me is what is so impactful, when you have, you know, a wall of people singing harmony and just really connecting on that level with an audience. That's the pinnacle. So like in Jennifer Nettles and her solo band, we tackled Bohemian Rhapsody.
I've seen video of that.
That was a highlight. You know, that's like one of my most proud accomplishments musically that I've done. I mean, we spent a solid month riddling out all of those harmony parts and all of the instrumentation, and like being able to show up at a sound check, especially, you know, in a lot of these arenas, you have people who've had to listen to bands sound check over and over and over again, and you know, they're just over it. And when we bust out with is this the real life? You know, and they're like, is this really happening? And so that's like the biggest compliment when you get people working at venues who are just like coming out from behind poles and looking like, what's going on up there?
Yeah.
And that, so I mean, and again, like, what genre would you even call Bohemian Rhapsody? I don't know, like rock opera.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's everything. It's just that moment of that wall of harmony.
So if somebody's watching and can pull up the link on YouTube of them guys doing that song and put it in the comments, that would be awesome.
That, and
If
that,
you haven't seen it, you should check it out.
No, there's been a lot of speculation. People are like, you guys must have recorded this separately, or like, that is a live take of us doing everything. So there's no way you could do it to a click. It changes tempos about 18 different times.
Yeah.
It's yeah, so that's something I'm very, very proud of. That was really special for me.
Okay. Well, and actually, so this wasn't Seth asking this question. It was Ava, she says.
Ah, Ava.
So she's on her dad's Facebook account.
Awesome.
All right. So speaking of Jennifer stuff, what's your funniest Jennifer story?
Oh boy.
Yeah, you can tell.
Gosh. Boy, that's a toughie. I mean, we have had so much fun over the years, and it's hard because like stuff that's funny to us, like when you're on a tour, just like with your friend group, you have these sort of inside jokes that we think are the funniest thing we've ever heard of in our entire lives. And then you go home to your spouse or your friends, you try to tell them something funny and they're just like, I don't get it. So probably a lot of that stuff. I just had this one memory.
Oh boy, here we go.
This won't even be funny to anyone. Like, we were in an airport together and we were walking down the terminal, and I would always, like, when we were in the airports, I'd get fiercely protective of her because we weren't traveling with any security really at any point. They were just kind of low key about it. We never had bodyguards. So we show up at the airport and people would start trying to come up for autographs and stuff. And I'd just be like bowed up trying to block people around.
You're like 5'3".
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna like take someone down. But like just always, so I'm like kind of walking around her at the airport. And something happened where she like went to pick something up or do something, and I thought she was doing a dance move. And I was just like, cool, and now we're doing this. And I started like doing it too, and she just looked at me, and then we both just died laughing. And so there was a lot of dancing, a lot of choreography on that whole tour. I remember, and also just like really sweet moments too that were really funny. We had just opened for Kenny Chesney, and this was back in the day where, like, you know, Sugarland was on a lot of people's radars, but then maybe they weren't massively famous yet, but Baby Girl was a huge song. And we were still staying in like borderline sketchy hotel, motel type of situations. And we were staying at some motel where you had to walk up a flight of stairs, you know, with all of your bags to get to your floor. And Jennifer just came up and grabbed the bottom of my suitcase and helped me carry it up the stairs. And somebody walked past us and saw what was happening, and they recognized him, like, that's Jennifer Nettles carrying a suitcase. I was like, my God, you're right. Like, she's just always, you know, the most down-to-earth, kindest, most wonderful person. So Charlie, I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm about to have my first child, and Jennifer gifted us with our crib. So, and up in the nursery, there's a really cool, really sweet crib. And yeah, she just, you know, she takes care of people, and she's fun and hilarious. So yeah, lots of little moments like that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, my band actually opened up for Sugarland.
Really?
It was yeah, I don't think you'd have been in the band yet. It was the week that Baby Girl hit #1.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. No, that was.
So it was a club here in town had booked them, but
Mhm.
that song hadn't even been released yet.
And that was what was so crazy about being a part of that tour, especially early on. You know, when you're booking these tours, you book months in advance,
Mhm.
and they so quickly outgrew these venues that
Yeah.
they've already committed to playing, and we would show up at these places like, this is dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And like,
This night that we played down, it was downtown Davenport,
yeah.
and it was the middle of July, and it was probably pushing 100 degrees that day.
Mhm.
The AC at the venue went out.
Yes. I've
So
been in that situation with them.
so there's okay, it's a probably I would say it was maybe a 350, 400 person venue.
Yeah.
There was probably 600 in there
Yeah.
with no air conditioning, blazing hot out.
We
I,
played many, many of those gigs where, or like, you know, the security people that were supposed to be guarding us, you know, now are all of a sudden super fans, and they're like just opening the door to the bus and just being like, big fan, would love to hang out. Like, oh no, you know, and I, of course, bowing up, like trying to get Jennifer in the back of the bus, like, I'll handle this.
yeah.
um, but yeah, there was a lot of that. Just it was amazing to watch how quickly that rocket ship launched, and you're still showing up at these venues, yeah, where the AC goes out and there's just way too many people in there.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it was very exciting.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump down to Sean Johnson. If
Ooh.
you haven't already talked about it yet, what was your audition for Maren like? Or did you even have to audition?
I did. So I was recommended to audition for her by her musical director at the time. And it was not unlike my Sugarland audition, actually. So there's kind of two ways, seems like there's kind of two ways that people go about auditioning for a band on that scale. And I've been to both types of auditions. So in a city like Los Angeles, you have an artist who's signed to a record deal, probably doesn't have a lot of touring experience. You know, they're just kind of putting money into it. They'll have these cattle call auditions where there will literally be, I've stood in a line with 30 other bass players. We've all got our basses on our backs, and you know, it's very uncomfortable, it's very impersonal, and they're just funneling you through like cattle.
Yeah.
What seems to work better is, you know, what they did in Sugarland and what Maren did, which is where you kind of get tailored recommendations for, you know, I think they probably auditioned 5 bass players total. And I think that was the same for Sugarland. So you narrow it down so you get a lot more time with an artist. And because that's the biggest thing, I mean, I think that people miss about touring is, you know, you play a show that lasts 45 minutes, an hour,
Mhm.
and then you have to spend the remaining 23 hours living with these people,
Yeah.
literally living on a bus in a tiny tube and making life work. So there's a lot more involved than simply, can you play the music?
Yeah.
So,
Got to
and
be a good hang.
yeah, and if you've been asked to audition, you can play the music. No one's walking into an audition on that scale not being prepared. You know, everyone can play. Everyone can, you know, has that part of it done. What has always been my ace in the hole is that I can also sing background parts, and so I can do 2 people's jobs if that's something they're looking for. And I always learn those harmonies whether or not I've been asked. I did the same thing for Sugarland, did it for Maren, and everyone's like, oh, you know, they can see like, oh, you went an extra mile for this. You know, you did something a little different. So the Maren audition specifically was at a rehearsal space. It was pouring down rain that night. I remember, and I, ran through the rain to get in there. So now, my makeup and everything, I'm like all wet and kind of disheveled. But everyone was very kind, and I was wearing these leopard print boots, and Maren had the same boots. She wasn't wearing them that day, but she was just like, it's just the little things that like, oh, I have those shoes. Cool. Like, oh, you like the same shoes that I do. We should be friends. And so there's just all these little connecting points, and I knew a lot of the same people that, a lot of people in the band knew, and some of the people running the sound studio also toured with Miranda Lambert, who I had subbed for. So there was a nice connectivity with people, and I wasn't a total stranger in a strange land, and which definitely puts you at ease. And we played my church. We played she never plays this song anymore. Drunk Girls Don't Cry. And one other song, I can't remember what it was, but I learned like the super high harmony to My Church, which, let's see, My Church tonight. Yeah, yeah, hallelujah. That's the melody. Can I get a hallelujah? Can I get an amen? Yeah, I guess that's my church. Like, that's the harmony part I'm singing, and no one had, they hadn't worked with another female singer, so that was, I think everyone was like, whoa, what's going on? I remember the guitar player, Bennett, turned to me and was like, do you like singing that high? Yeah, actually, it's like kind of my favorite thing in the world. But, so everyone got like a good, comfortable 30 minutes to hang out and talk and play and kind of get a feel for who this person was.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was very comfortable. And the Sugarland audition was the same way. I just felt very much at ease. And yeah, so I got very lucky, and that's the type of group you want to be in. You want to be working with people who want to take the time to get to know you and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah. So I watched a video on your website the other night about you did it for Premier Guitar, I think it was.
Oh yeah, sure.
So how you learn your own song, or you learn songs that you're asked in the charting and all that. In a nutshell, can you explain, without doing the 25-minute video?
I know.
What you do to learn songs quickly?
Sure, absolutely. And this is all born of, you're a professional musician. You get asked constantly. In that instance, what I made the video around was Maren had a big headlining show coming up, and she has a side project called The High Women, and some of them were going to come and be guests. And so it was like, okay, I have 3 days to learn this song and commit it to memory, because you can't have a chart on stage at a giant show like that with these professionals. So for me, when I'm going to learn any song, I listen, and I listen over and over again. I don't touch an instrument until I've listened to the song at least 4 or 5 times, maybe more. And while I'm listening, I'm paying attention to, okay, verse, chorus, bridge. Oh, there was a weird sounding chord in there. I wonder what that was. Okay, down verse. And I'm mapping the song in my head so that I'm building a road map internally. And I'm also aware of sections that are jumping out at me that are unique and different, and that I can't immediately tell you, okay, that's a C chord, that's a G chord, that's whatever. And in Nashville, we think in terms of numbers. We don't really think necessarily in terms of note names. So that makes it much easier. If the artist needs to change keys, we can just immediately jump to another key by thinking in terms of 1, 4, 5 rather than C, F, G. So I just listen, and I start singing along with the bass line. And my biggest thing that I will impart to all of you is if you can sing it, you can play it. Anything that you can sing means you can hear it, you know what it is, and eventually you'll be able to play it. So with all of my students, if they're stuck on something, I stop them and I say, sing it for me. And then they sing it, and then their ear tells them, like, I'm playing a note that is contrary to what I'm singing.
Mm-hmm.
And you eventually, you just sing it, oh, there we are, it's a D. And eventually you'll get there. So that's the biggest thing, singing along. And then I also have to learn all the lyrics. So I have to pay very careful attention to the story that the song is telling. And what's great about country music is that they usually tell such a clear story that it makes it much easier to kind of catch things and remember things. And so yeah, it's just listening. And then I can literally get to the point where I can write the chart to the song without having touched an instrument. And then the last thing I do is I sit down to do what I call getting it under my hands. So I'll do all this prep work, and then I'm like, all right, I just got to get it under my hands and I'll be ready to go. And I'll play it 1 or 2 times, and then I'm ready to play it on stage for 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So it's all about listening.
And the ear training.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
So what does somebody do to get better at ear training?
Well, I start at the piano. So, I'm sitting here at my piano right now. But a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start with a middle C, and then I'll play another note, and I'll have my student close their eyes, or in this case, you can't see what my hands are doing. And I'll ask, is that higher or lower than this note? And then usually if you just guess right away without thinking, they might get it wrong. But if they really sit there and go, and sing it, then their ear and their voice will tell them, oh, that's higher.
Yeah.
And that's where I start, just kind of guessing. And then, that's how I start training someone's ear. And eventually you train people to hear intervals. So that's a fifth. And a little trick for that is, if you've ever seen the movie The Wizard of Oz, when they're marching, her army is marching, the witch's army, they say, oh, we, and you can play these little mnemonic games with yourself to know, oh, that is the sound of a fifth.
Okay.
And there's a whole myriad of little tricks you can teach yourself.
I always use Here Comes the Bride.
Oh, yeah. Here comes the bride. Yeah, that is a fifth. Well, yes, if this is your 1, then yes. So,
yeah.
If we're in G, then that's a 4th. But that's a whole nother discussion, kids. Don't get overwhelmed.
So, ear train. And I always tell students that that are in our band program or whatever, I always say, listen to the song 6 times in a row.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And they're just like, 6 times. I'm like, if the song is 3 minutes long, you're done in 18 minutes.
That's right.
And you have the song laid out pretty much if you listen to it that just over and over and over.
That's the only way.
Now, getting the students to actually listen to me to do that is a whole other ball game. Because what do I know?
You talk about listening to music. It's kind of meta. Yeah.
All right. Charlie wants to know, when it comes to your singing, you have me singing cha-ching, cha-ching for weeks.
That's pretty funny. So, and that's an interesting story. Again, talking about the Maren audition. So, and kind of the genesis for me having to learn all these songs. I play once a quarter with a really awesome project in Nashville called The Girls of Nashville. And it's all of these female songwriters. It's spearheaded by 3 in particular. And they gather up probably like a total of 12 women who are writing songs. And there are songs that you hear on the radio or that you're about to hear on the radio. And I'm in the house band. So if you've got 12 songwriters and they're each playing 2 songs. That's 24 songs that I have to learn in a very short period of time. I usually get these songs maybe a week before this showcase. And there's no way I can play the 24 songs without charts in front of me, but I'm also singing all the harmonies. So I have to know the songs well enough to sing all this stuff and play them, as best as I can. Well, Maren was one of the songwriters in that Girls of Nashville series before I auditioned. And that's one of the reasons I got tapped to audition, was because she had worked with me once before. And the songs that she picked were My Church and Rich. And I wasn't really familiar with her music at that time. This was, I guess it was sometime in 2016. And I was still out with Amos and I did the showcase. But I remember there's always, whenever I do these, and I've done probably 10 of them at this point, there's always one artist that usually stands out to me. I'm like, ooh, this is really cool. I really dig this. And she was that artist. And Rich in particular was the song that really resonated with me. And that song has a lot of lyrics. Boy, I be rich in the tow Prada, Benz in the driveway, yacht in the water, Vegas at the Manor, and I roll a gimbal. And it's not something that you can just, it's not oohs and ahs.
Yeah.
Kind of picking up out of either. So I worked really hard on that song. And she wrote that with Laura Veltz, who's an incredible songwriter. So Laura was also one of the songwriters on the bill that night. And Laura came in thinking, like, I'm going to have to sing harmony on this. There's no way anyone's going to be able to pull this off. And we rehearsed it and she was like, oh my gosh, you actually learned all these words. And I was like, yeah, hello, ka-ching, ka-ching. Like that was my jam. I just loved it so much. And then, and then I ended up playing the gig, getting on the gig, and we played the ACMs in Las Vegas. Was released as a single, and it has a cuss word in it. So for television, they had to omit. Hear me?
It kind of jumped up a little bit
Got
there.
me? Okay, so we both play Rich, and the chorus is, there's money falling from the skies, ka-ching, ka-ching, shit, I'd be rich, la la. You can't say the SH word on television, so what ended up happening during the broadcast was the camera would just cut to me going, ka-ching, ka-ching. And I'd actually had a manicure done and had the word shit written on my fingernails.
Clever.
So, well, yeah. But yeah, so that definitely has become like my hallmark, and people remember me for being the ka-ching, ka-ching girl. And that was totally born out of can't say swear words on TV, so they had to just bring in the camera, look over here, kids. But yes, I am a very big fan of that song. It's a very special song, and it's a big part of why I got on the gig with Maren.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Let's do one more. I have another Zoom call to do here at 3:00. So
we better wrap this up.
Yeah. What are your go-to songs to warm up with?
Oh man. I don't really have songs so much as I have little riffs, but so when Rich is one of those songs. So probably more than warming up, which I don't do religiously, I probably should. If you're sound checking, everyone kind of has their go-to thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent at Soundcheck of playing the songs that you're actually going to play during the show, so that the people mixing the show are getting an accurate output of the levels that you're going to be giving at showtime, and making sure that every instrument, everything that you need has been tested and accounted for. So I kind of run a series of Maren tunes starting in different keys, but I usually start with Rich, which is in F. And so I'll just start playing the bass line to Rich. Then I'll move up to F sharp and I'll play I Could Use a Love Song. And I kind of sort of cycle through until they say, all right, we got it, we're good, and they move on to somebody else's turn. So that's probably my warmiest, uppiest that I get. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
I think it went really well. We had some good questions come in.
Great to chat with the students and reconnect with you guys. It's
Absolutely
great to hear from y'all, and hopefully we'll all get to hang out again sometime soon.
No kidding, man.
I know.
So if you're not following her already, that's her Instagram. So she has some nice pregnancy pictures on there.
Oh, yeah.
Some Iron Maiden covers.
Yes. We have it all.
A little bit of everything. So
yeah, exactly.
Follow Annie on her Instagram, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your pregnancy. And
thank you.
The baby comes out.
I would say you too, but you're not pregnant.
No, I'm done with my children bearing.
Yeah. No, thanks so much. We're hanging in there. We're having a good little quarantine down here. But all you students out there, I know this is a really weird time, and I'm thankful that we have the modern technology to see each other and connect, and at least have that going while we're alone together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So and as always, if you love what we're doing, and you want to help support the Academy, you got our Venmo and our PayPal's down there if you want to shoot us a few bucks to help us keep the lights on during this whole thing. So
totally.
that would be awesome. So I'm going to end the broadcast. We can chat here for a second after I do that.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all.